Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Learning with Jelly. Today is day 13 of the 30-day SQL challenge, where we are going to do a second mini project to practice everything that we have learned from day 7 afterwards. So let's look at our agenda for today. We're going to have a hypothetical case study, propose some questions that we can answer from that case study. Then we're going to hop right into SQL Light Studio and answer those questions for practice. So, if you are new to the 30-day SQL challenge, welcome. The whole goal is to work on SQL, preferably straight, so that you can learn beginner to intermediate SQL skills to apply to projects and thus be ready for entry level data roles. I have two QR codes on the screen. One is a topic list that lists the video links as well as links to supplemental resources. Highly recommend that you check that out. And there is a Facebook support group where you can join the group and join a chat where we help troubleshoot issues during the challenge, ask any questions that you may have, find a study buddy, and more. Before you ask troubleshooting questions, please empower yourself to use Google to help you troubleshoot. Learning how to troubleshoot and getting errors are a good thing. You learn by solving errors. So please do that first before you're asking the group to troubleshoot issues with you for you, because you're not going to be able to ask your boss to keep troubleshooting your issues. Okay, so the case study today. So we're doing top tracks for a party, still using that Chinook database in SQL Light Studio. I'm going to have a link to how to download SQL Light Studio in the description below or view video day 2. So you are hired as a DJ for a party and you need to create a playlist of the top tracks that fit the party's theme. Your client wants to know which genres are most popular, and within those genres, which albums have the most tracks. The client also wants to filter out any tracks that are too short for dancing. So we don't want a 1 minute song because by the time it starts playing, people would just be getting on the dance floor. So these are the questions, and feel free to try out these questions on your own. So you can pause the video, try these questions out. You're going to most likely use the tracks table in the Chinook database, but also look to see if there are other tables you could potentially use. So we want to identify the most popular genres. Within those genres, we want to find the albums with the most tracks so that these albums can play for a good length of the party just in case the DJ needs a break. And we also don't want any tracks that are less than 3 minutes long, which is equivalent to 180,000 milliseconds. I did that conversion for you since the data is in milliseconds. So let's hop into SQL Light Studio and actually answer these questions. Okay, so, as a comment, I have all of those questions here. Identify most popular genre. Within those genres, find the albums that have the most tracks, and then filter out tracks that are less than 3 minutes long. So, in the Chinook database, I have this tracks table. Are there any other tables that we might could potentially use, either in this analysis or if we were to expand the analysis? And genres may be one, because I see that I have genre ID in tracks and I also have genre ID in genres. And maybe I can join these two tables together. And we're not going to do any joining in this video, but for those who want to kind of challenge themselves to do a nice little inner join, definitely look up some documentation to do that, but we will get to that in a later video. All right, so I want to first look at the data. So let's do select, as I always tell you, star from tracks so that we actually get an understanding. And let's go ahead and put a limit clause on this because we don't want to select everything for big data sets. That's just good practice. And here I see that I have track ID, I have the name of the track, and I have the album that the track is on. I have genre ID, which is great. I have some information about the composer, some information about how long the track is, as well as the unit price for every track. And I'm just going to click on track ID again to resort it. So if you double click on some of these columns, you're going to see that it's going to sort the output for you. So I accidentally clicked on a column, so I'm just sorting it by track ID now. So track ID should be unique for every track in this table. Awesome. So now I want to identify the most popular genres, and I have genre ID here. And in order to get the most popular genre, maybe I can do a count to see how many tracks are actually corresponding to a specific genre. So let's go ahead. And what do we want to return here? I want to return genre ID. And I also want to do a count. And we can add an alias here as genre count. We don't have to add an alias, but we can. And then I want to do from the tracks table. And I want to count by grouping by genre ID, because this is going to give me how many tracks correspond to that genre. So when I run this is what I get. Genre one, we have 1,297 tracks for genre one, genre two, etc. But I want to make sure that I have the top genre at the top of this list. So I can order by this column so that the top value shows first. So let's go ahead and do order by count descending, because that's going to put the biggest number at the top. And these are my top three genres: 1, 7, and 3. So I'm going to make a note here. 1, 7, and 3 are the top genre IDs. Now, what if I wanted to know what 1, 7, and 3 actually is? What are those actual genres? Is it pop? Is it rock? Is it hip hop? I have a nice little genres table here where I might can give the actual name of that genre. So let's just actually look at this. Select everything from genres. And I'm not going to put a limit on this because I want to actually see all the genres. And here I get out what those genre names are. This is a table that only has 25 rows, which is great. So I see that 1 is rock, I see that 3 is metal, and 7 is Latin. So that's going to be an interesting party. Rock, metal, and then Latin for 7. Now, if I wanted to make this query a little bit more sophisticated, say for instance, I had thousands of genres, and nowadays you do, there's thousands of genres that you can have and subgenres. Let me select the actual name and the genre ID, which is everything in this case, from genres, where genre ID, right, is in 1, 7, and 3. So remember, we did that before. We can filter based off of a list of values that we put in parentheses. And here I get the name as well as the corresponding genre ID. So this would have been a more sophisticated way to do it. So I'm going to say sophisticated way versus doing a select everything. Okay, so we have the most popular genres. Now, within those genres, we want to find albums with the most tracks. Okay, so now we have this tracks column. I want to return album ID. I want to also probably return a count of the tracks. And I also want to probably filter by a certain genre ID. So let's try this. So let's do select. And I know that I want to find album. So album ID is the only thing in that table that corresponds to that. I know I want to count how many tracks are in that album. And I'm just going to put this as track count. I also know that I probably want to return genre ID. Okay. And then let's keep it that way. So I'm going to do from tracks. And then I'm going to do the same where above. So I like to build on my queries. I like to run a piece of the query, see if I get an expected output. Add another piece, see if I get an expected output. So this is a very iterative process. And I'm going to say 1, 7, 3. And then I want to group by album ID, because I want to count the number of tracks that each album has based off of that genre. So let's see what this gives us. I see album one has 10 tracks and so forth, and I should only see genre IDs of 1, 3, and 7. So that looks great. Okay. And so now I want to only find the most popular album for that has the most tracks for each of these genres or all the genres together. So let's do an order by real quick. So let's order by track count, descending. Okay, so now I see in this case, album ID 141 has 44 tracks for genre ID 1, which was rock. Then album 23 has 34 tracks for genre ID 7, which is Latin. So these are my most popular albums. Now, could I actually group by album ID and genre ID? Let's see what this happens. Okay. So 23, 34, mm-hmm, 30, 23, 21. Okay. Didn't really change too much. But in this case, I can kind of go through this and say, hey, this is going to be the top amounts of tracks for genre ID 37. This is the one for 30. This is the second one for 7, and so forth and so forth and so forth. Okay. All right. So I'm going to take out me grouping by genre ID. I don't care if I get 3 rocks or 3 Latins. And so in this case, I see album ID. I'm going to put a comment up here. 141, 23, and 24 are the albums that are exist within those 3 genres that have the most tracks. Awesome. Now I only want to filter for tracks that are less than 3 minutes long, filter out tracks that are less than 3 minutes long that are within these corresponding album IDs. So let's do another. So I want to select album ID. I also want to select track name, which is name. Okay. And then in this case, let's do name in album in track ID. Let's return both. From tracks. Okay. And I want to say where album ID in 141, 23, 24. Group by track ID having the milliseconds to be greater than 180,000. No comma there. And now I'm also going to want to return milliseconds to make sure that that filter for my having worked. So let's see what this returns for me. Album ID, track ID, so Vai Passor, Bye Bye Brazil, etc. These are the track IDs. This is the album number that it is. And all of these are greater than 3 minutes, which is 180,000 milliseconds. Awesome. So this gave me exactly what I want. Now I can add all of these tracks to a playlist. Now, could you have done this differently? Yes. Could your interpretation of the questions gave you different results? Yes, it could have. This is just one way to interpret the questions. Keep in mind that the having filter applies to the group by. Okay. So this is going to group by track ID and only return the track IDs that are greater than 3 minutes long. Okay, so this was fun. So try to think of other questions that you can get from the tracks playlist, whether you get the highest average unit price by album, but I think all the unit prices are the same, whether you get the the lowest amount of bytes for the track because you want to download these albums and don't want it to take up a lot of space on your computer. Just try to think of different ways where you can practice these clauses. All right, so let's hop back. Keep going. So that is the end. Like I said, please, please, please play around with practicing the select, from, group where, group by, having, order by, limit clauses. In our next videos, we're going to talk about joins as well as common table expressions to get more complex case studies. But please like, comment, and subscribe. You help the channel so, so much when you like it. I'm also going to put my Etsy shop in the description below, as well as where you can buy me a coffee. Please check out the topic list as well as the Facebook group. Thank you so much. Bye bye.